Okay, welcome. Good evening, everybody, to the Monday, July 10th Permanent Public Building Committee meeting. We have two main items tonight. The Emery Grover renovation and the DPW complex feasibility study update. And as usual, we are doing Zoom, the video, so we will follow those rules we've done before, which is online roll call and so forth. But we'll just kick off tonight with the approve the minutes, which is generally what we do. I believe we have a quorum for the minutes from the previous meeting. And so I put forth a motion to approve the last meeting minutes. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions? Discussion? Hearing none. Coming to the roll call. Richard?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
And the chair is aye. Okay. We will now move to the first of the two main topics, which is Emery Grover. And yeah, Ann, you're here. So let me just capture that. Michael, I saw he's not here. So we only have one user group. So do I turn that to you, Ken, for the update?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Let me pop up the
I was looking at some of those pictures earlier today.
agenda.
And I see Gene has joined us. I'm trying to promote him to panelist.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. As you noted, Stuart, I sent along some pictures, some progress pictures taken in the last week or two. You can see that the lower level subgrade's been completed. They're started rebuilding the structural piece of the chimneys back above the roof. They get held up today with the rain, as with the brick repointing on the outside, but they were working diligently all day today, rebuilding the loose brick and failed brick under the windows on the interior of the building. The site utility tie-ins are substantially complete. They're dropping in the last catch basin today. Actually, I shouldn't say catch basin, a drop manhole. The wall and joist prep for the structural steel is underway. They've been knocking out the pockets and cutting the beams for the steel, which we expect next week to start. That's the current schedule on that. Basement waterproofing prep is underway. We're waiting on the Seeker rep to come in and do the final inspection on that to give them the okay to do the waterproofing work on that. And one of the pictures you could see the deteriorated soffit from where we ripped off the cornice, and they started that work on Friday, doing the backup work for that, for the new backup for the new cornice. So that in a nutshell is what we've got going. If anyone has any questions.
Yeah, that's what I saw that picture and I thought that there was rot up in the soffit, right?
Yeah.
And then in terms of the overall schedule, it seems that, you know, each little piece is moving along, but overall schedule wise.
No difference now. We're still on track there for the 1st of June next year.
Okay.
But you know, we still really haven't hit any of the you know, the milestones, so to speak. So things can happen and things do happen, but right now we've managed to overcome the unknowns that we've uncovered and not have it drastically affect the schedule. It affected pieces of it, but it hasn't affected the overall schedule.
Any others have questions? Okay.
All right, the next
Yeah,
piece
Tim.
is the ACL. If you recall, we had those shear walls we had to add, and as a result of that, MEPs had to be relocated. That number you see there is just for the plumbing. We're waiting on the HVAC guy to see if there's any cost to his relocation of the utilities to get around those shear walls. There will be a change order for the sewer and drain work. The original drawings showed the sewer tying into a drain manhole, which isn't going to work. You know, it didn't work. we worked our way around that. We're just waiting for the final numbers from the site contractor. We uncovered some drop beams that were unknown. We're working our way around that. May have to add some structural steel to eliminate those drop beams to allow for the HVAC to pass underneath them. There will be structural work on the chimneys as a result of both the internal bracing and the fact that 2 of the 4 walls on each of them are only 8 inches, where the structural engineer had anticipated 12 inches. Good news is 2 of them are 12 inches, so that's a plus. Finally worked out, I won't say all of the details, but 90% of the details in the windows now. And so the window revisions, there'll be some added work there. We had to test some brick prisms as a result of the walls only being the 8 inches thick. And the last one is for door frame revisions due to expanded wall thicknesses and some of the locations of the walls. So if there are any questions there.
Any ballpark numbers? to
Now,
these?
now there, O'Connor is not consigli where they can give me numbers. They wait for their subs to give them their numbers. So I couldn't hazard a guess, except to say that the structural chimney one will be a fair number. The other ones I don't see as being window revisions maybe, but the other ones I don't see as being huge numbers at this point.
By fair, you mean big.
Yes.
So that number is going to grow substantially.
Well, yeah, considering it's 0 right now, yes.
No, I mean, that there's a lot of money in that category of items.
Yes. But like I said, the chimney work and possibly the window revision, the prism testing, it's a day for a guy that did the coring. So that's not a big number. The door frame revisions, a little extra material from what I see right now because they thicken them out. But I don't see the other ones being huge. They'll probably make a liar out of me, but
And the structural items have been designed and or approved by the structural engineer.
not all of them, no.
I'm assuming they will be before we get our estimates.
Oh, no, I thought you meant the like approved shop drawings and stuff. No, we don't have that. We do have drawings from the engineer. That's what they're basing their estimates on.
I see. Okay.
Okay.
All right. There's nothing else. We can go to the voting item, Stuart.
Okay. So we have a change order and we have 3 invoices to approve. The first item is the change order number 4. And you have that there, which is for M. O'Connor Contracting for $226,598.14 coming out of the general contracting budget. Do I hear a second?
Second,
And any questions? I do. Can we just quickly review that again on the?
Yeah, I think
the big
most of these you've seen,
Right.
maybe not in the final numbers, but we've discussed the interior brick repairs. That's all that loose brick that was under the window. That number.
That was the
origi-
basement, basically.
that- No, it's not the basement. That's under the windows, under and over the windows. That's all the loose brick and failed brick. The
Okay.
red brick on the interior.
Okay.
That number was originally 132,000 and we worked it down to 82. There was some MEP changes due to some of the structural changes. That was relatively minor. The duct heater swap, they had changed the kilowatts on one of the duct heaters. So that increased obviously the cost on it. Barry had asked for a flooring change and a sprinkler room drain. And that's 2 floors in janitor's closet in the sprinkler room, I believe. So that's that number 14. had some window supports that had to be added because there was no lintel, or the arch was unable to support the window. And then there was another bulletin for some, we discovered some even further lintels at the windows that needed to be added. Stair revisions, once we got in there and had to add channels and stringers. That was originally 42,000. We brought that one down. The soffit, original number on the soffit work was 82,000. And we came up with a plan that reduced that cost. The rebuilt, these are the first of the rebuilt chimney changes. This is for the chimney above the roof, not the red brick chimneys that are within the inside of the building. And then the last one is light fixture revisions and adding a ceiling to room 121.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, coming to the vote. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. Okay, great.
Anne,
Anne
Oh,
is
thank
aye.
you, Ann. Yes.
Anne is aye.
Good. All right. Thank you. Okay. The next one's going to be an invoice number 7 for M. O'Connor Contracting. It's the requisition through June 2023 coming out of the general contracting budget for $847,206.21. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the vote. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
chair is aye. Okay, we have 2 final invoices. I'm going to group them together. They're coming out of the miscellaneous budget. First one is UTS of Mass for June 2023 for $1,440. Second one is for Vanderweel, May 2023 commissioning for $7,760 for a total of $9,200. As I said, coming out of the miscellaneous budget. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, George. Any questions? Hearing none, coming to the roll call. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. Okay, that's it that I got on this list. Did I miss anything?
No, that's good.
Okay, great.
I should like mention that we are moving forward with the FF&E, and Deborah and BH Passe have organized some sample mock-ups that will be done later this month of 2 desk positions options. We're working with Red Thread, and we'll be setting those up over at Hillside so that the school admin folks can review that information. And then we are also beginning to work on the technology and the AV equipment, which will happen this week. Deborah, are there any other things we should add?
Sorry, I was on mute. No, I think we're fine.
Okay. And Stuart, if we could, while Ann is still here, vote the RTU replacement.
Yes, we got that invoice. If the committee has no objection, seeing none, hearing none, we will go to the vote for the RTU replacement invoice number 1 for Hill International, which is the May 2023 Elliott cost estimate work coming out of the miscellaneous budget for $6,240. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Lynn. Any questions? Seeing none, coming to the roll call. Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. Okay, that only leaves the DTW and the Ridge Hill stuff for invoices, Hank and Catherine.
Yeah, we can do those later.
Okay, I mean, we've got a couple minutes. Are we done, Ken? Any other?
Nope, that's all I've got.
Okay, so we'll close down the Emery Grover renovation, and I think if there's no objection from the committee, I will go to the Ridge Hill demolition. Because the next topic is DPW, and there's one invoice there, which we'll do in that agenda item. So if I could, I put forth the Ridge Hill demolition invoice for Doran Whittier, so invoice number 12. Requisition through May 2023 for $1,125 coming out of that architectural budget. Do I hear a second?
second,
Thank you, Lynn. Any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, coming to the vote. Okay, Richard,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Lynn,
aye,
Jean,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. Okay, with that said, I will turn Hank to the DPW, and is that going to be you?
I'll start it off.
Can I ask one
and-
question before we get started?
Go ahead,
Yes,
George.
Back to Ridge Hill. Are we finished with that now?
No.
we're waiting for the grass to grow.
Yeah, we're waiting on grass to grow and waiting on the next round of fertilizer. They've got 2 more rounds of fertilizer that they have to do.
So we shouldn't see any more architect bills, right?
No, there was the last one came in. That was the one you just voted on.
And,
Okay.
and the
So
grass is making progress. We're not seeing,
There are thin spots though that we will likely have to reseed in the fall.
Okay, but other than that, we're finished with the rest of it, other than what we're holding the contractor for to finish up,
Correct.
just some retainage.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
and on the RTU project, we will come back to the committee at the second meeting in July to approve the pre-qualifications for the HVAC contractors. And also provide an update on the cost estimates. We're going through reconciliation on those now.
Okay. All set, George?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, thanks, Hank. Okay, so turn to DPW.
Yes, and we distributed the slideshow that Weston and Sampson prepared. Mike Richard, Jeff Alberti, and Jim A. Lee are all here, as is Shane as a user rep. And I'll turn it over to you, Mike.
Thank you, Hank. Can I share my screen?
Yes, please.
And with the screen share, I know this is the first presentation of the study or update, as we usually do in these meetings. I just ask everybody, I think I can see everybody, but I might not see. So if you have a question, raise your hand or just raise the voice. And I think, are we okay, Michael, to ask, are we go, or would you rather go through it and then ask questions?
No, please ask questions as they come
Okay.
up. I did put a spot at the end, but yeah, if you have a question, please ask as we go.
All right, thank you.
So we did put together just a quick agenda about the items that we'll talk about. First and foremost, we'll just recap briefly the discussion that was the update from last month that Jeff Alberti did. I don't know if everybody was present for that meeting or not, so I'll just recap it very quickly. I won't spend a lot of time on it. If you want more information, please ask. Then we'll talk about the site selection and the test fits that we've been working on since we last met. And then we'll talk about our next steps going forward. And then, as we mentioned before, we have a placeholder there to talk about questions. So first and foremost, what we did is we took another look at the space needs. We call it a review and confirmation. And the table here we see on the right compares the 2023 findings compared to the 2016 findings. you can see we've got, we've got 2 more divisions, we've got increased square footage, we've got additional staff and additional vehicles. And all this just leads to additional square footage. And as a result of, we've included the building maintenance division in this study. We've included the RTS, or the recycling solid waste division, in this study. And we looked at this differently than we have before in the past. We didn't know how the groupings were going to come out, so we looked at them as individuals. So there might be a little bit of redundancy in the spaces. And an easy example of this might be a mechanical room. If you have one combined facility, you have 1 room. If you have 2 facilities, then you have 2 rooms for that mechanical space. So there is a little redundancy in the spaces, but as we combine the spaces or consolidate the spaces, we expect that square footage will come down some. We also, once we had the review and confirmation, we had the staff interviews complete, we started taking a look very high level at bubble diagrams or scenarios about how these groupings would come together. We looked at 3 different scenarios, and there was different variations of each of the scenarios, but we looked at consolidating by operations, satellite offices by department, and hybrid by operations. And I know Jeff Alberti had walked through some of those scenarios with this group last meeting, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. But you can see on the bottom of this slide, you can see some examples of how the bubble diagrams looked.
Yeah, if I could, I'd like to just put out there, I know we talked a little about it last time, but I still have questions about, or I'd like to understand, and I think you do it a little bit later in 2 more slides. There's 2 other slides here. The question is this, is that when you look at the groupings, because I thought I had an appreciation for the different operations, but I don't think I have the level of appreciation that everybody else in the user group does in the working group. So DPW, admin, and engineering, I got why they sort of go together. But if you look at the different groupings, not to debate each one, just to understand the context by which you group some of them together, why would park and forestry go with sewer and drains? Or, why is water and sewer and drains over RSW, and or the fleet is with the RSW and not elsewhere because you got park and forestry, it's got equipment. So is there any, without going in too deep of a detail, a general guiding principle why certain ones made sense to go together versus others? Like DPW, admin, and engineering, just to repeat myself, I get, but
yeah. So that's a good question, right? So it differs by scenario, if you will. So yes, obviously the admin and engineering actually makes a lot of sense. But then in some cases we might have fleet with highway. Highway has a large vehicle demand, a large vehicle fleet, right? So some ways it makes sense that highway could go with fleet, depending on how you look at the scenarios. In other cases, we might be looking at the operations, how does the snow plowing operations come into consideration? So it really depends on the different types of scenarios. As we get ahead of ourselves in this, while we use this as a guiding principle, this was not our sole means of direction as we move forward. Is that helpful?
yeah, I think I'll wait till later on to get more of it. But I think that, and I maybe I'm jumping too far ahead, but I suspect based on the next couple of meetings is where you start to refine it and get a clearer picture of why you would put certain things together.
Yeah. It was actually kind of fascinating as we sat with the user group and we walked through the scenarios, and I'll get there. I won't leave. Let me get there.
Yeah. Keep going.
All right. So now that we have our use group, we have our spaces, now we have to identify the sites that we're going to use. And we had discussions internally with the user group about what sites should be considered. But there was always a question about, did we think about this site? Did we think about that site? And so what we decided to do is take a more comprehensive look at the parcels that might be available. What we did is we used GIS data and we identified all the government properties in town. There was 255 properties to be exact. And starting off with the GIS principles or the GIS data, we're able to filter and rank these sites, these 255 sites, and eliminate most of them. So some of the criteria we looked at was size. So we know the user group sizes. We know about what parcel size we should be looking at. So anything that was too small, we were able to get rid of. Anything that was, we looked at the owner on these sites, and owner might also be the jurisdiction of the site. So anything that was school jurisdiction, we got rid of. There was also government property that was owned by the town of Wellesley. So we were able to eliminate a lot of parcels that way. We also looked for at parcels that were Article 97 or otherwise protected land, and we're able to eliminate those. In some cases, they might be partially protected. So we're able to look at that land that was not protected, even if it was the same parcel. We also looked at existing uses. In some cases, I know the one that immediately comes to mind to me is one off of Dwight Road, where the road actually runs through the parcel, and one side of the road was a playground, the other side was not. It just made the site just not viable based on the limited space that, you know, was resulting from the playground as well as from the road splitting it. With GIS data, we're also able to look at usable upland areas. So the GIS data will have, you know, the square footage of wetlands or the square footage of floodplain. And so we're able to take a look at that. How much land could we build upon on each of these sites? And from that, we could eliminate certain parcels. And then we also took a look at proximity to abutters. That was something that was very apparent when speaking to the user group. So we're able to eliminate some parcels that way as well. After walking through this exercise, we were able to eliminate it down to 5 parcels. Maybe I guess the real is 7 parcels. We got Hillside School. We got parcel 74. We got 470, 484, 500. Those are three separate parcels. I put them in one bullet item. We got the RTS and Cogswell parcel, and we got the Daily building. So it really narrowed down our search and made it more focused at this point. So once we had a focused number of lots that we were looking at, we started taking into consideration the key considerations, if you will. And some of the things that we heard is there is a desire to keep admin and engineering together for those reasons that are obvious to us. Recycling solid waste will remain at the RTS sites. Again, I think that's pretty obvious on why that would happen. Building maintenance division is not tied to any other divisions. So that gives them some flexibility, if you will, in terms of where they can go. There's a desire to reduce the program at 470. The 470 building is in very rough shape, and the site has a lot of constraints, developable constraints. The program has grown. So we want to try to make it more appealing to develop there. And so there was a desire to reduce the program at 470 Dedham Ave, if that could in fact happen. And there is a desire to use the 6 bay at 470 Dedham Ave, if that's possible. The 6 bay was built, Hank, I can't believe I don't know this, 7 years ago, I'm guessing.
Yes, about 7 years ago.
So there's a desire to reuse that building rather than just discard it, if possible.
Is that because I see that reuse? Is that as reuse as it is today, or for reusing the structure for something else?
I think it could be either. In other words, that
Yep.
that structure could be dismantled and reused, placed elsewhere. But it was a pretty affordable project to begin with. But if it can be reused in its current location, then so much the better.
And I'll just add to that. I mean, there's, you know, we wouldn't rule out any renovations to it that make it a more desirable building as well. We're really trying to keep the options open. So now that we have this, we walked through different scenarios on a flow chart diagram, if you will. And this is just two of the scenarios that we walk through with the user group. And you can see the sites themselves and the site names are contained in the purple blocks. The divisions are the ovals, and the yellow oval signifies a division that's going to remain in its current location. Now, we haven't yet made a decision. Is it going to remain in its current location, in its current state? Or what are the renovations, or is it going to be a new facility? We haven't made those decisions. And then a blue oval signifies a group that's going to be relocated to that parcel. And a red diamond means there's no use for that parcel at this point in time or in that scenario.
So the top section is scenario 1, top section, bottom section is scenario 2, for example,
Correct. And there's a blue line that signifies, that divides them.
separation. Okay.
So after walking through the different scenarios, there were certain options that just became very, very apparent to the group. And this ended up being the preferred option with recycling and solid waste at the RTS, as we talked about, admin and engineering being repurposed at the 500 Dedham Ave site. 470 is going to consist of water, sewer, drains, and fleet. 484, that building is small and difficult in terms of a renovation, and therefore it wasn't considered in this scenario. We have had some high-level discussions about what could become of that space. The Daily building, whether it's a Daily building or it's a new building on the Daily building property, is a great home for building maintenance division. And then highway and parks and forestry would be grouped together, but we don't know whether it would be parcel 74 or the Hillside School. And we're looking at both options at this point in time.
Parcel 74 I'm going to bring up is, I know we took it off the table. Well, it was kind of taken off the table last time, and now it keeps coming in. And have we dealt with any level of dialogue whether this is truly an option or not?
I think from the town manager's perspective, it needs, we shouldn't eliminate it from consideration and evaluation in this study. What is different in this study from the prior study was, in the prior study, we were looking potentially to place the entire DPW operation at parcel 74, and Hillside School wasn't even in consideration because it was assumed to have continued use on the interim basis as temporary facilities for other users. And we, at that time, didn't quite understand whether it could be repurposed as a school again. That, I think, pretty clearly being reused as a school has been taken off the table just because of the costs associated with that. But if none of the other parcels that we reviewed could accommodate highway or parks and forestry easily. But these two options would be able to accommodate them. The only way that we could accommodate all of these divisions at 470 would be to take back some of the land that was given to the school department or the school committee as part of the parking lot associated with DeFazio. So if the town is prepared to say, well, DeFazio option is the school is no longer needed, schools no longer need DeFazio, well, then highway and parks and forestry could be considered on that DeFazio parking lot area. Or I should say,
Does that DeFazio parking lot area include the place where the previous sand building was, what do you call it?
Yeah, the salt shed. Yes,
Salt
it
shed.
does. Yeah, the layout,
Includes all of that, and there's a storage area there, which I assume is available for building as well.
all of
You
that,
know,
all of that would need to be relocated, and the assumption was that the refueling station would need to be relocated if and when a school, even a temporary school, were constructed there.
but if that land is available now for DPW, let's assume that it becomes available through the schools. That land would include where the salt shed is, where the laydown space for some of the equipment that's there, and I guess there's some other materials there, and the area where the refueling station is. All that land would be considered available for DPW, highway, and parks and forestry.
Yeah, but I don't think that would be relinquished unless and until the full renovation of the schools, Pollard and Mitchell, is fully complete, or the key decisions associated with those are finished. It was identified previously, George, as the only location in town where you could put a temporary school. And so if for whatever reason the town had under an emergency condition had to build a temporary school, that's the only potential site that could be chosen. And I mean, that's certainly a discussion between the boards. But the town, I doubt, would relinquish it to DPW prior to the conclusion of how the school master plan will play out.
Right, I think both of them need to be discussed almost simultaneously.
Are you saying that we need to study putting highway and parks and forestry on that site?
I think that if that site does not need to be available for schools, then it would be probably a preferred site for forestry and highway. That's my thought. I'm just throwing out my idea.
I don't know if Anne is still. Well, that's really a question, I think, for the chairs of.
Yeah, I think
Select board.
somehow that discussion, even in a preliminary way, needs to be held to talk about master plan, when that's going to occur, and potential location of highway and parks and forestry, and when that would be necessary, timing wise, to determine whether or not school would need that space, would be willing to relinquish it if their master plan says they're not planning on using that space. So I think discussion needs to happen. I'm not saying that they need to make that decision right now, but I think you really do need to discuss all the pieces together.
Well, the discussion occurred prior to the grand land swap between the different jurisdictions. As you recall,
But
The
things have
school-
changed since then. I think things have changed. That's just,
I don't discount the fact that there needs to be a discussion. I guess the question really becomes, are we at a point with enough information to start that with any reasonable conversation, George? And that's what I'm saying is that maybe through one or two more cycles of this information with some of the basis, if it starts to lean towards that way, and there is only really one choice but to take that the part of the DeFazio instead of the school, then it becomes a an important discussion, because you can't have one side making decisions while the other one is trying to make decisions. So I agree with the discussion. Is there enough information, maybe, is what I'm asking.
Essentially, I'm suggesting that there are three options for highway and parks and forestry. One is parcel 74, which has its pluses and minuses.
Yeah.
One is the Hillside School site, which has
Yeah.
pluses and minuses.
Yeah.
And the third one would be the 470 area slash 470 slash DeFazio area. But anyway, we can move along now. I think that discussion needs to be held.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
We can include that in the concepts that we develop, Hank, and I don't know that we'll have those ready for Wednesday, but we can certainly do that.
yeah, I mean, I think your 2016 study.
Yep.
Took a look at that already.
Yep. Yep.
And I'm not quite sure how you would amend that. Per se, and in the 2016 study, you didn't go too far into that other area.
So
Correct.
out of curiosity, Hank, are we sharing this information across to school and the town manager at this stage? We shared any of this insight level of thinking?
Town manager has been involved in prior discussions, but it has not gone to school department or select board yet.
Yeah, because what I'm saying now is that people are aware there was previous discussions, but I'm saying now that this is very active, we should be starting to communicate this insight. And I think, George, that also should help drive a level of awareness, and to a point where I think we should be having some discussions.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps a chairs meeting would be appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to, yes, but I don't know. I guess I'm still struggling with when. So here's my thought, and I look for the committee's input. If we're making sure that at this stage, now that there's more information being generated and more thought behind it, that needs to be communicated out, finance committee, school, town manager, to the point where they're starting to see this starting to develop. And then we have a chairs meeting, Hank, I think.
Yeah, I should correct my prior statement. There is a plan to go to the select board on the 25th and provide them, I think, with this presentation,
Okay.
along with any comments that the PBBC has. And so that issue could be raised at that meeting.
Okay. We should probably make others aware that that's going to be done at that time. So school committee as well as the finance committee. I'm sure they're having representatives for that board meeting anyways. But I think for this topic, it makes sense to have awareness.
Okay.
And that's the 25th, which is a Tuesday, 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Yes.
And that would be the day after our next meeting. So in jumping ahead here, before we come back to Michael's presentation, I know you got a few more slides, but Hank, I'm wondering would we be getting another update on the 25th on this from the next set of meetings, sort of cleaned up and review it in anticipation of this information going the next day?
We certainly can do that. We do have a working session on this coming Wednesday, where Weston and Sampson will be providing some test fits on the various sites. So we could bring that back to this committee at the next meeting. And but I think I'd like to review that with Weston and Sampson, and also with Shane in in our user group meeting. But
So Hank and Stuart, Mike, you could probably answer this question more, but I seem to recall that we had a conversation early on in the process. But even if that land were available, Weston and Sampson felt that would still be too small based upon the acres there and based upon the square footage that we needed. I may be wrong on that comment, though.
No, Shane, I think that was with all the groups aggregate combined. I think it's worth looking at. Can we fit the highway and parks and forestry there with water sewer drains and fleet? Yeah, we can take a look at that.
yeah, or fleet might go to the RTS. And the other issue is phasing, that similar to when the PSAP building was constructed, it was first used as a temporary building for the town hall. And so I think what's important in this next phase is to make sure we're not building too many temporary facilities. But we do know that everyone would have to move out of 470 in order to reconstruct that building. The unknowns on that site remain the setback requirements for the wetlands on both the Dedham Avenue side and on the wetlands. Actually, it's surrounded by wetlands. So wetlands are riverfront on all four sides. So those are constraints to the redevelopment of that site. And likewise, the further you move up into the DeFazio parking lot, there are similar wetlands constraints that need to be addressed.
So just back to my earlier point is, so Hank, user group is meeting this Wednesday. I understand that. What I'm saying is on the 24th, we have a chance to review the updated information and also bring awareness to the committee of what would be presented to the select board.
That's correct.
Okay, good. I just wanted to clarify that. All right. Okay. I mean, because I think what I'm hearing from you, George, is one is there's other options potentially out here. And there's second, which is communicating with everybody. We need to really eliminate something that really is a constraint.
There are no easy answers, for sure. And there are no easy and obvious options
Right.
for this. All three of those possibilities, I think, are going to be difficult for different reasons. And I say that to be perfectly candid, I have actually had a few neighbors contact me and say, I've heard scuttlebutt that they're thinking about building something on parcel 74 again. When should we start talking to our select board members? And I said, well, don't do it yet. We'll keep you informed. So there's already some scuttlebutt going on that they're not happy because they thought this was completely taken off the table by the last select board that did take it off the table, but now it's coming back. So they're quite surprised, as a matter of fact. But anyway, so I know there's really not very strong community desire to have anything there except the Greenway.
Right.
But anyway, that's a piece of information that I wanted to pass on to everybody. I'm not saying that it can't happen. I'm simply saying that there's a long road ahead with lots of noise coming from the neighborhood saying they don't want it there.
Right. Got it. Okay. So if I may turn back to you, Michael, just to finish up. Sorry.
Yep, yeah,
If you can.
absolutely.
Michael, could I jump in real quick? Sorry.
Yep.
Just George and Stuart for you. Part of the conversation we've had with considering parcel 74 is limiting our use there at parcel 74 by by a division or two as opposed to the entire DPW. And if that were to be a final location where something were to go, offer other amenities on that site, such as a rail trail or something along those lines, similar to the Amity Pass where the current DPW is. So make it a multi-use facility where the neighborhood gets something out of it as well. So we have had those conversations because we are very aware of the resistance and of the concerns with having the DPW go to that site.
Okay, that's good. And it's possible that something like that could appease them. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think to complement that, the idea of having Parks and Forestry set within that green space would actually could be an advantage. And we all know if highway is close to your front door, that snow plowing does occur on a priority basis close to that facility.
They do a good job there now anyway.
Okay, Michael.
All right, moving on. So our next steps as we move forward is we're going to be moving into, finalizing the test fits and the concepts. We're meeting with the user group Wednesday to discuss. And then we'll take the comments from that meeting and hopefully move into a finalized preferred concept. We might have another iteration if necessary. Looks like we're going to have some work to do with 470 Dedham Ave, but we'll get it there. We also need to finalize our existing building assessments. We've done a walkthrough on them, but we really wanted to understand what the end use is going to be on those sites before we, wrote up our report on it. So we're moving into that too as the light is becoming clearer. And we're going to finalize our permit analysis and prepare an overall project schedule, which is the design, procurement, construction, probably the most important part, the phasing of it.
Will you include in next time? I'm interested in, or maybe I do it offline. Is you talked about in the first beginning part, the beginning part is you had the number of departments, you had the square footage, the number of vehicles and type of vehicles, and you said there might be a consolidation or some synergies to be able to remove some pieces. But what is that, breakdown? Second, on the map, I couldn't figure out where the daily was. Now I got where the daily building is. But I didn't see the circles on the PDF that I got. It wasn't there. So I think it'd be worthwhile to see some of the detail around, for example, if you did the I don't know, 470, and you took the square footage that people need and what would be the functions in there. So the slide before this has the sample scenarios, but as we did in the school study programs, and I think it's probably even more important in the DPW, is that there are certain operational needs that are drivers for certain space and areas of usage. I can't, of course, you guys are the experts, the user group, you guys are all in deep details, but could you roll some things up that help bring clarity to why, you might take 470 because it's got 45,000 square feet, of which 40,000 square feet is very operationally conducive to, equipment changeover. I don't know, I'm making things up. But I don't see that. Maybe we're too early here, but at some point, I think that's where it starts to help.
Yep.
Define why certain things are coming together.
Perfect. Yeah,
Just
no, I
just
think we have that and it's still evolving. But we can give you the information that we have on going back to even like the space needs and once these things are consolidated, what is the actual square footage? I know we have that. And we have discussed the benefits of each of these user groups being together. So we can bring that all in together into one nice, neat package.
Yeah, I mean, because the user group and the DPW obviously know their operational bit, but I don't think some of us, certainly me, I'm making assumptions, and it'd be nice to be able to see, because when we did the school stuff before, you may not have been privy to seeing some of that stuff, but it was very helpful to see the analysis and the numbers driving that conclusion.
Yep.
Just a,
Got it.
just a table, I think a table or chart with each of the functions and approximate square footage, recognizing there'll probably be some moving around and changes. I think a table like that would be helpful. Then you don't need to put it everywhere in here.
Got it. We'll get that into the next presentation.
Okay, thank you. Other comments from folks on that?
I did have one other question. The site next to Claxton Field, was that one of the items thrown out because it wasn't big enough?
It actually is protected. It has a protection status on it.
Because it's part of town forest?
Yeah, I think it's conservation protected.
Okay, so in essence, that's protected in the same way 470 is, except you probably don't need state approval, you just need conservation approval. So to do that, what we'd have to do is provide some additional conservation land to balance that if we decided that was more useful for DPW. Is that how it works? Is that how it's protected?
Some reason I thought this was Article 97 protected. I'll have to go back and check, but I thought it was.
Article
I can
97
confirm that.
is. what's-
That is state protected. So it's a
Really?
deed. Yeah, and you have to go through, the Senate to get it out of protection status.
I guess I'd like to know a little bit more about that. We can
I'll confirm
do it
that.
we can do it offline, but I'd like to know what would prevent us from using that space, other than the fact that it's not an easy site. But again, no sites are easy. It's got a lot of ledge, and I think it actually may be part of town forest. I don't know.
Yeah.
I believe you are correct. It's part of town forest, and Claxton Field is under the Park and Recreation
Right.
Commission jurisdiction.
But if you ask anyone in town, is that site something of value to you? Most of them are going to say no. Because it really doesn't offer any recreational area. It doesn't really offer, it offers a storage building, a small storage building. It offers a place to put Christmas trees for sale in December, but beyond that, it's just sitting there. So when I see a site like that and there's virtually no other sites around, I'd like to say we should look at it and see how difficult it might be to use that, because that might be a better place to put forestry, for example, or maybe not the highway, but could be forestry that could go there or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas and asking questions.
I'll clarify the protection status for this group, and then I will identify how to get it out of that protection status. And you can let me know if that's something that the town is willing to pursue.
Okay, if you can find that out, I'll be more than happy to talk to Hank. Get the information to Hank, and I can talk to him about it. It may not be worth going after. Again, it's the issue of, if you did have that site and it wasn't protected, what value would it be to the overall project? Would it be helpful to have that site? If it's not big enough and it's got too many problems, then it probably wouldn't be of value. And you could get rid of it by just setting it aside.
Yeah, it does have, as you know, it was an old quarry. So
Right.
there would have to be blasting in order to get a building in there.
Yeah.
Hank, that's also a preferred site for the skate park as identified by the active active recreation working group.
Ah,
The state park,
Skate.
State
Skate.
Park.
or
Skating.
skate park, skate park. Okay. Anyway, just a thought.
yeah.
Anything else? Is that pretty much it?
That,
Mike?
that is it for the presentation, yeah.
Okay, great.
I've-
Okay,
I've got one more question if I could.
go ahead, George.
And that is, when you look at the possibility of rebuilding on the 470 site, obviously you've got to move everybody off that site to somewhere else. I'm assuming we could move people off that site over to Hillside and allow that building and or additional space outside that building to become a temporary facility while we do what we have to do at 470. Is that considered? In other words, where would you move them to if you had to move them out of that and it was feasible to rebuild on that site? Is that a consideration, or is it too soon to think about that sort of thing?
The Hillside building, I think, could easily accommodate building maintenance department in transition. The issue about Hillside accommodating fleet and maintenance is that you would have to, there'd be at very least one, if not two large tents that you'd have to construct the same way we did for the fire department.
Yeah. I agree.
And the turning radius, it would probably push into the playing field just to get your turning radii and sufficient site coverage
Yeah,
to
that's-
protect the
that's okay.
vehicles.
That's okay. I'm just saying, I would assume that something like that is possible. I'm not suggesting that it's economically feasible, but it's something that we've done before. If you can do it with fire engines, fire trucks and the rest of the team, you might be able to do it with this. I'm assuming you'd have to find someplace for them if you decided you wanted to use that space.
Yes. And then the question of whether there's another location in town where you could build a temporary building that gets repurposed for an alternate use without tearing it down afterward.
Right.
And we had, as you're talking about 470, and we had talked about possibly doing a temporary steel building, and then it gets repurposed as a recreation building after its use by DPW.
Similar to what we were thinking about when we were looking at DeFazio and putting temporary school there, putting up a building that could be used after they got rid of the temporary trailers.
Right. And certainly when we're looking at Hillside in these scenarios, we'll get a better sense as to whether any of the building would remain or whether the entire existing building would be demolished. Timing wise, the whole thing couldn't be demolished until there's an alternate space for the school IT department, which currently occupies the old cafeteria space.
Yeah.
But it may be possible to leave the oldest phase of the building, kindergarten rooms, the gymnasium, the cafeteria, the heating plant, and then cut off the rest of the building.
Anyway, I didn't mean to introduce that. I'm simply suggesting that that could be a space, a swing space for 470, if 470 was decided to be worth pursuing.
Well, Weston and Sampson will be looking at Hillside as a permanent location for two
Yep.
divisions. So we'll be able to see what that might look like and whether some of the permanent buildings could be temporary.
All right, I'm gonna pull us back from a. Just keep on time here. Are you all set, George?
I'm all set for now.
Thanks.
yeah.
Great. And I think the follow-up on Monday, the 24th. Hank will be good too.
Okay, we'll plan that.
We'll have some more information. We'll have some updated elements to it, as well as more information put into the presentation, Michael. So that'll be great. Okay, the only thing we have is, if there's no other discussion point, Hank.
Nope.
Okay, we just have one invoice to approve for this feasibility study. So I'd like to turn our attention to that and put forth for approval the invoice for Weston and Sampson for the May 2023 services for $7,150 coming out of the designer budget for this project. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Thank you, George. Any questions? Hearing none, coming to the roll call. Richard,
Aye.
George,
aye,
Lynn,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
and Shane,
Aye.
and I don't see Barry. Okay, and the chair is aye. Okay, any other invoices that are missing from this list for DPW?
No.
Okay, great. And that concludes our voting items, which is great. And is there any last minute elements to this agenda topic?
I presume we're going to remain on Zoom for the foreseeable future.
Yes, unless we have, Hank, any significant, and I don't think based on this project schedule you went through last time that there was any significant need to go face to face for workout sessions, working sessions. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement. Yes.
Okay. And we can review that in come August. Unless anybody has any need or objections. And I don't see any or hear any. Okay, great. Okay, with that, I'd like to wrap up the DPW agenda item. And then I know you just asked PPB's other business that we have. That was an open question there, Hank, in terms of future meetings in person. I think we covered that. Any other open topics we have? Okay. Thanks, Michael and Shane. At least from the DPW side, we're all set with that. But
Thank you.
back to you, Hank. Anybody else from a committee member? Any open items?
just wanted to thank the team for looking at a lot of different things.
Yeah, the DPW meant.
They're being very rigorous,
Yes,
Great.
and we appreciate that.
Okay, if there's no
But-
other business, I would so move, Mr. Richard.
So moved.
So moved. Excellent. We'll wrap this meeting up. And Catherine, I'll stop by tomorrow. I'll leave a note.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you know what
Decide that.
time?
I can probably